Mentality podcast, where we will discuss Packer news, roster decisions, and game action. My name is Patrick Corrigan, and I am your host. I am also a Packer shareholder. You can find and follow and interact with me on Twitter at Packer Mentality. My podcasts are available on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Anchor. If you're watching me on YouTube, please help my channel and hit the like and subscribe button below. It costs you absolutely nothing and it helps me out. So if you don't have the time to keep up with all the news, reports, or social media regarding the Packers, or you just can't make any sense of them, let me help you make sense of the nonsense. And thank you for joining me. Yesterday, the Packers went into Raymond James Stadium in Tampa and came away with a hard-fought 14-12 victory over the Bucs. It wasn't pretty, but a win is a win. And there isn't anything as a bad win in the NFL. I don't care who's injured, suspended, missing on the other team. It still counts as a victory, and this one could be a big one. At the beginning of the year, I circled a couple games as probable losses for the Packers, and this was one of them. So to get a victory in this spot against the team that you could be competing for playoff seeding, that's a huge victory. And it's great to have this tiebreaker in your back pocket as you get into the last few games of the season. So let's talk about the good things we saw on Sunday. And the big one is how the defense played for most of the game. Take away the first and last drives of the game, and this game was dominated by the Packers' defense. Thinking about what I mentioned in my preview of this game, the keys before this game that I thought were important for the Packers: stop the run game. They had great tackling on Sunday. It was much better, much improved over the first 2 weeks. Check. Pressure Tom Brady. Check. Keep short passing game in check. They did that. And play more man-to-man defense. And they did that. Some of the details backing that up. Third down conversions. Buccaneers were just 2 for 11. Rushing yards. They stopped Leonard Fournette. Only allowed him 35 yards rushing. The defensive line, linebackers were huge. Man-to-man coverage. They lost Jair Alexander on the first series of the game, which was one of their worst series of the game. Not Jair's fault. And after that, they pretty much played a lot more man. And, we all saw how that worked out. They shut them down for basically the whole middle of the game. And only when they went into prevent defense at the end of the game for that last series, which was zone, and again, gave up another touchdown. Tom Brady actually avoided throwing against Eric Stokes. They only completed one pass over there, only tried one pass, completed it for just 6 yards. Otherwise, they didn't throw his way at all. So good on Eric. So some of the heroes from Sunday. Packers sacked Brady 3 times, if you're wondering about the pressure on Tom Brady. 3 sacks, 2 by Kenny Clark. Heroes of the game, Devondre Campbell. He was huge. 14 tackles, and the biggest play of the game to seal the win, deflecting that pass. Fantastic. He didn't have great games the first 2 weeks. This one was just amazing. Keyshawn Nixon had to come in when Jair went out with his injury, comes in, plays the slot, and did a fantastic job. Couldn't ask for more from a guy who is just came in during the offseason as a special teams help, and he's come in and been a real bonus for this team. 6 tackles, a forced fumble, and on the special teams, he downed a punt on the 1-yard line. Rasul Douglas, also affected by the Jair Alexander injury. He has to move from the slot to the outside. He was really good on the outside. 2 pass breakups after moving out there. Kenny Clark, just mentioned him, 2 sacks. Rest of the defensive line also played really well against the run, collapsing the pocket on Brady. Just a fantastic job by the defensive line. And Rashawn Gary, he had a sack. Also, fantastic job rest of the way. Preston Smith didn't actually record a sack. I don't even think he recorded a tackle, but his presence was felt. He was putting pressure on Brady and setting the edge. I can't say enough about how the defense played. On the offense, first offensive key was protect Aaron Rodgers. And before the game, got the best possible news that I didn't think they were going to do. And David Bakhtiari was going to play. And he was alternating with Josh Neisman. And he was solid in his first game out. Did a fantastic job. I think he allowed one pressure. So did Neisman. But was just a fantastic addition. You could tell Rodgers felt a lot more comfortable. And the offensive line really performed pretty well in pass protection, and they kept Aaron pretty clean most of the game. The offense started out really hot with 2 touchdown drives to start the game, and they looked like they would have had a third TD drive if not for a fumble by Aaron Jones. That fumble seemed to kind of derail their momentum, and going into the second half, the offense just struggled for the rest of the game. The Tampa Bay defense, give them their credit. That's a great defense. Todd Bowles, he's a fantastic defensive coach, and they really shut down the Packers in the second half. One of the other keys on offense that I mentioned before the game, get Jones and Dillon the ball. Run the ball. The streak continues of the Packers winning when Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon have at least 25 touches. But the duo was pretty well shut down this week. And it seemed like Matt LaFleur kind of lost his commitment to the run in the second half. Only 68 yards on 24 carries and 5 receptions for just 17 yards. Not a huge day for the running backs, but it is just a tough defense to do anything against. The pony package that has both of them on the field hasn't really produced as much as myself and I'm sure a bunch of other guys that follow the Packers, that we expected. It just hasn't done much. And I suspect we'll see a little bit less of that particular package going forward, but they still will need to get Jones and Dillon the ball to just maybe save a little wear and tear on them and not have them on the field at the same time. Something we saw on Sunday that I think we'll see more of going forward this season and into the future is the emergence or arrival of Romeo Doubs. If you've been listening to me or following the Packers throughout the offseason training camp, you know Romeo has been spectacular coming into the season. He showed up to mini camps, worked hard, impressed the coaches and anyone watching. He made plays, both the expected normal plays and made some special plays. And that was, it was mini camp, and they're not in pads, they're in shorts. So we were all waiting to see what he did in training camp. And once training camp came around, he did it. He kept doing it. He made plays and made a positive impression on Aaron Rodgers, and he continued his high-level play. And Aaron and I think a lot of the coaches, really expect him to, set the expectation that he's ready, and set a higher level of expectation than a normal rookie. So going into week 1, he had 4 receptions on 5 targets for 37 yards. Allen Lazard was out, so he got a few more snaps. Week 2, everybody's healthy. Didn't get nearly as much playing time, just 2 receptions on 3 targets for 20 yards. But yesterday, and I said before the game, this is his time to shine. Christian Watson and Sammy Watkins both out. He got a lot of playing time, second most snaps for receiver behind Allen Lazard, and he produced. Did everything you expect a starting wide receiver to do did everything you expect a number one wide receiver to do, to be honest. 8 catches on 8 targets, 73 yards, and his first NFL touchdown. He was fantastic. Made some tough catches. One of the things the Aaron Rodgers has pointed out, and that you notice when you watch him catch a ball, is he uses his hands very well. He's got great hands, strong hands. But he wasn't the only receiver to make an impact on Sunday. Randall Cobb showed he still has the juice. He made a big 40-yard catch on a RPO and finished with 2 catches for 57 yards, but they were some very key catches. Alan Lazard, and I cannot recommend enough that you go back and watch this game if you're, learning how to play wide receiver. You have kids that play wide receiver. Have them watch Alan Lazard on how he blocks. He has some absolutely vicious hits on blocks on Sunday. He just laid into guys on blocks. He's a fantastic blocker, and he's always there making blocks downfield, doing whatever he can to spring his teammates. Fantastic all-around football player. He finished with 4 receptions for 45 yards and a touchdown. Can't say enough nice things about Allen. Another big part of the offense on Sunday was Robert Tonyan. Now, not spectacular numbers, but he and Aaron were on the same page at least. He had 6 receptions, second on the team. It's just 37 yards, but it was clear that he was getting open for Aaron and was available and making the catches for Aaron. So my final key for the Packers for Sunday was take some shots downfield. And that they did not really do. I know this is a victory against a very good Buccaneers defense, but I'm a little concerned with the offense's disappearing act when they're faced with adversity or a possible momentum change, or it's a tough team and they have a lead. Once they get to the second half, the attitude or the plan of attack for the offense, whether it's Matt LaFleur or how it's being executed, it just seems like they're just playing to not make a mistake, and they become overly conservative and cautious. They didn't challenge the Bucs downfield, and they allowed the Buccaneers to sit on the short passing game, and that's why the offense really stalled. The Buccaneers did not respect the Packers trying to get behind them. Whether that's because the Packers didn't have Christian Watson or Sammy Watkins, doesn't matter. You had a massive advantage. Alan Lazard against Antoine Winfield. That's an 8-inch height difference. I mentioned that before. They didn't really take advantage of that at all. But good news is we won. And hopefully we'll see some more aggressiveness in the coming weeks. And hopefully we'll see some of those coincide with the return of Christian Watson and eventually Sammy Watkins. Quick news on next week's opponent, the New England Patriots. They look like they're going to be missing their starting quarterback, Mac Jones, who suffered a high ankle sprain yesterday, and he's likely to miss several weeks. Brian Hoyer is likely to replace him against the Packers. We'll go into that a little bit more later this week. In the meantime, please hit the subscribe button down below. Help me out. Have a great week, and we will see you in just a few days. Have a great week.